Hello and warm welcome to the Analyst by Vajiram and Ravi. Today we will comprehensively discuss 7 articles taken from the Indian Express and the Hindu. This discussion will be under 2 sections. Section A, the analysis part, wherein first article will be about natural farming, the various recent schemes launched, its features, needs and challenges of the natural farming and the relevant schemes. Second is about the parliamentary productivity, the increasing disruptions in the parliament, structure of the parliament, the parliament role and the way forward. Next section will be the simplified section, which will deal with another 5 articles along with the prelims boosters for your upcoming prelims, so stay tuned. So starting with the first article of the day, which is about National Mission on National Farming. So this initial mission was started last year, 2023, but this year government has relaunched it to make it or maybe take it to the masses so that it could be adopted in a mission integrated approach. So it has, the aim of it is to bring in additional 7.5 lakh hectares of area under natural farming. So first of all, let's understand what is natural farming. So there are basic components of natural farming. What the 4 particular concepts about is, one of them are Bijamrit, which relates to the seed, and all of these processes are natural in terms. Now this is to say that all the elements and ingredients that we are using in this type of agriculture are natural, are in natural proportions also, are found in those areas themselves. They are not taken from somewhere else, from other areas to be put in different areas. So first of all, first principle is Bijamrit. As I said, this is the treatment of seed using cow dung, mulch, urine. Second is Vafasa. This is activating earthworms in the soil because they act as natural activating agents in the soil. So that is the second principle. Third is about Jivamrit, which enhances the fertility of the soil by including various microbes. This also uses cow urine, dung, floor of pulses and all of the natural elements. Then we have an element of mulching also, which creates microclimate using different mulches with trees, crops and other crop residues. And the fifth element, which is about the plant protection. So for that, we spray biological concoctions which prevents pests, which prevents weeds, diseases, and also it leads to proper integrated pest and weed management. Now, if we see, Niti Aayog has standardized this definition of natural farming, which is, it is a chemical-free traditional farming method. So like I said, it is a natural farming totally based on traditional methods. It is considered as an agroecology based diversified farming system. Why do we call it agroecology based system? Why? Because it is based on the agroecology of the region. By agroecology, I mean to say it is related to the biodiversity, the microorganism occurring in that area, the plants, the animals, all are in the systematic area which are occurring naturally in that region. Diversified farming system and integrates crops, trees, livestock with the biodiversity. So it is one systematic way of doing it, one way of practicing agriculture in its naturalized form. Now to give you certain background, how did it start? If you go back to 2019, the Bharatiya Prakritik Krishi Paddhati, this was the original scheme name. And if you further go back, there was zero budget natural farming. That was renamed as Bharatiya Prakritik Krishi Paddhati, which is nothing but a submission under Paramparagat Krishi Vikas Yojana. So, and what is a Paramparagat Krishi Vikas Yojana? It is a detailed component of the National Mission of Sustainable Agriculture. Now, this particular BPKP, or what I said is Bharatiya Prakritik Krishi Paddhati, it focuses on eliminating all synthetic and chemical inputs. Like I said, just the principle of natural farming, and promote on-farm biomass recycling. It again focuses on biomass mulching, and now this has been renamed as National Mission for Natural Farming. So the same mission that we are talking about. Then let's see what is the need to do so. We have been doing different sorts of farming, natural farming, organic farming, synthetic farming, mechanical farming. So what is the particular and core need of practicing this type of agriculture? So first of all, we have to understand the quality of the soil. We have seen over the years, especially in case of Indian soils, whether be it alluvial soil, red soil or black soil, the quality has been degrading over the centuries. It has been found that some of them are acidic also. That leads to degradation not just in the quality of the crops but also the quantity, the production, the productivity, the yield. So first is this. Second is the public health concerns. Various public health concerns are somehow related to disturbance of the food chain. Food chain gets disturbed if soil health is not wholesome. It could lead to biomagnification, it could lead to bioaccumulation, and that again further penetrates into the food chain or the underground water. That again gets related to our consumption. Then the third is farm input cost. So sometimes many farmers are capable, they know the intensive and the traditional techniques, but somehow they lose out on these inputs. They do not have the capacity and the economic sustenance to bring in all of these inputs and to carry out that agriculture. For them to ensure their livelihood, to ensure their sustenance, it becomes crucial that these natural farming is taken to. Then excessive fertilizer. Yes, we have been witnessing the excessive use of fertilizer in certain districts of India. And even though we are using excessive fertilizers, there is still the production and the productivity level are still not up to the match of certain major producers at the world level. So we need to think about it. What is the issue? If we are excessively using fertilizers, they are eventually getting wasted. When even we are going to pay for them, why to use them in excess and then lose out on not producing enough? Then there is an element of climate resilience and sustainability. All of these crops and their production relates to ensuring food security. This further gets related to maintaining SDGs, especially 1, 2, SDG 10, which is about maintaining the equitability and the equality. SDG 1 is about health, nutrition and ensuring that there is no poverty. Everyone tackles or everybody is able and capable of handling the starvation and have enough food to feed. Then again, if we talk about SDG 13, which is specifically about the climate change and its effect. So we need to adapt to the changing climate and its mitigation also. There is a need to take to natural farming. So these are some of the benefits, but let's see, go ahead, what do we have next? The highlights of the mission. So first of all, let's understand what are the critical highlights of this mission. This is first of all natural farming. Now the intention is to at least take it to 1 crore farmers, and again it is a cluster based approach. How many? First, initially they will ensure that 50,000 clusters are organized and are generated. They work in cluster-based approach because that ensures economy of scale also, that ensures transparency, clear accountability, and of course, research and development at a better scale. Then there is an element of bio-input resource center. We have a target of around 10,000 bio-input resource center. We have to set these centers. They will ensure the dissemination of bio-inputs at all of these cluster level. Then we need to set up these model demonstration farms. We will establish around 2,000 demonstration farms. So as these dissemination of these technologies, dissemination of these techniques is easier to the farmers. Then of course there is an added mechanism of certification and market access, which is crucial if we have to ensure that farmers take to this farming. Otherwise, if their livelihood concern is not addressed, there comes a problem, and therefore to increase the market access, to increase the exports areas and the countries, certification and market access is crucial. Then, like I said, it is centrally sponsored scheme under Ministry of Agriculture and Farmers Welfare to promote natural farming, and additionally this will also ensure 30,000 Krishi Sakhis. This will be there to help and to guide these farmers. 10,000 bio-input resource centers, like I have already said, and their additional 2,000 model demonstration centers. So these are some of the attributes of these schemes, some of the features. Then you have to understand what are the universal principles, or to say what are the principles of natural farming. First of all, minimum tillage or no tillage, minimum soil disturbance. Second, we have to mulch with the crop residues in case we are not left with the standing crops. Then we have to take to crop residue, but nothing unnatural, nothing chemical. Then we have to implement multiple cropping, at least 15-20 crops at one go. Then soil needs to be covered 365 days. There is no provision to leave the land fallow. And to add to it, you have to add and integrate livestock into agriculture. So element of livestock and agriculture and trees and crops. Then we have to use natural farming bioinocular to trigger soil. It is a combination of microbes and these microorganisms which ensures that the activity and the fertility of soil gets increased. We have to ensure pest and disease management. We have to ensure the balance between the herbicides and weedicides. And of course, to ensure all of these management, we have to ensure that we do not take to anything unnatural or organic, so to say, nothing synthetic. We also have to promote the use of farmers' own seeds, because one of the crucial requirement for agriculture is the requirement of seeds, input seeds. Then we will, in this category of agriculture, we will use farmers' own seeds, not bought from markets or companies. So these are certain principles of natural farming. Now, why you have to understand the crucial difference and the specific difference between organic and natural farming, because there is more tendency for aspirants to confuse these two as one, which is not the truth. There are subtle differences, but let's read about it more. So organic fertilizers and manures like compost, vermicompost and cow dung manure are used in organic farming. However, in natural farming, nothing chemical nor even organic fertilizers are used. No external thing. So like I said, anything which is natural to that area, even to the proportions, even if we take something natural but an unnatural amount that is not usual to that area or to that region, then that is not acceptable in the case of natural farming. Second is, organic farming is still expensive because, like I said, the amount of any of these inputs is not defined. So sometimes we have to take to its import, its export, or probably give and take of these products from the market, which is not in the case of natural farming. Anything available locally, we are going to use, we are going to stick to anything that is available in our surroundings. And it takes care of local biodiversity also, which is again not the case with organic farming. Third, we have to ensure that manures and compost are incorporated into the soil for their proper decomposition in case of organic farming. While if we come to natural farming, decomposition takes place with its own pace in the soil itself. There is no need to add anything, and it takes place by microbes and the natural earthworm that occurs in the soil. Organic farming has a slight adverse effect on surrounding environment, as I said, because it sometimes goes and assumes disproportionate usage of certain, even if these are natural things, which is not the case with natural farming. As the name goes, anything and everything, the constituents, the ingredients that are used are also natural, and in the amount they are being used, they are also the natural amounts. So that is why it doesn't disturb the surrounding environment and confirms, and the local processes are maintained. Then the guidelines and regulations are comparatively and relatively stricter in case of organic farming, while natural farming is less regulated because there is less need to regulate them. Then National Mission on Natural Farming. Now that we are discussing this mission, we have to see what are its benefits. So first of all, environmental sustainability, all of these reasons which I just mentioned, that it is being natural, coming from the natural area, right in proportion to the environmental situations, being in consonance and synopsis with, it is like I said, it is in synopsis with biodiversity, the crops, the trees of the area. So it is environmentally sustainable. It also fight climate change resilience. It gives healthier food, where chemicals, fertilizers, weedicides, herbicides are not a part of. They also survive longer, they have a longer shelf life, and economic benefits in the form of less use of chemical fertilizers, chemical agents, chemical inputs, less resort to market forces in the form of seeds, and let's say irresistible disproportionate amount of water that is being used in irrigation for other types of agriculture. Then they have some challenges as well, that these are especially dependent on the local systems. If any outside systems, whatever be the application and advantage of that system in that particular area is, if that system is taken to some other area, just by seeing its success, it may not work well with the other region. And again, by its very principle, if that successful strategy is being taken to that area, the concept of natural farming is again diluted. Then it has to be labor intensive, because all of the things has to be naturally done. So it has to use local labor and manual labor. Then initially when we are taking to natural farming, probably somebody is converting from other sorts of agriculture to natural farming, it could be a case that they might face low yields in initial years. So there is some sort of capital investment that is needed in initial years without any much expectation. There will be yields, but probably with some time, with gradual increments. Then market demand. There might be a case when market is up some years, but in the other years that is not that up. So we have to be at the terms of market volatility. That is another challenge that we may have to face, and we may have to be ready if we take to natural farming. Then these are some of the features which I have already mentioned, that it encourages biodiversity. It again supports animal health welfare, because biodiversity is a crucial part of natural farming. It discourages algal blooms, which is not good for environment, and it supports water conservation and water health. Then it discourages environmental exposure to pesticides and chemicals. It builds healthy soil. It combats erosion. If soil are able to hold all of these particles, the soil will stay close and it will lead to lesser erosion. Then it also fights the effects of global warming and increasing temperature. Like I said, it caters to climate change resilience also. I would like to present here the case of Sri Lanka. Why the gradual implementation of this scheme is important, and why we took it through many years, the implementation of this type of scheme. First of all, Paragat Krishi Vikas Yojana, then Prakritik Krishi Yojana, and then now National Mission on Natural Farming. Because we have seen in the recent past that Sri Lanka, which tried to implement 100% organic farming in one go by banning all the chemical fertilizers imports, what it did see in a matter of few months, in a span of few months, it saw the failure of its policy, and eventually it had to leave that policy. First of all, in May, just to give you an idea, on May 2021, Sri Lanka banned all the imports of chemical fertilizers and pesticides. In the same month, the Presidential Task Force also implemented 100% organic farming without ensuring that farmers are able to take it, or without ensuring other helping criteria. Then there were massive protests by the farmers. There were also food prices shot up and food crisis set in. That led to again further more protest and eventually an economic emergency. In the end, Sri Lanka had to airlift huge consignment of nano urea fertilizers from India, and then Sri Lanka withdrew this ban, and of course it buried the 100% organic farming policy. So yes, intention policy, however good it is, we have to ensure that its implementation remains practical and pragmatic. So it has to be ensured gradually. With short terms, it's when we see the success and we amend whatever the loopholes and plugs are there, we ensure that those are built up, those are filled, and then we move on to the next stage. So that is the case study regarding this. Some of the government schemes have also been in the same arena, which are related to this National Mission on Natural Farming, that helps in ensuring natural farming across India. First of all, Pradhan Mantri Krishi Sinchai Yojana, because agriculture, there is indispensable element of irrigation in any agriculture. So we need, the primary goal of this scheme is ensuring irrigation to every corner and nook of India and at least agricultural area. Second is soil health card scheme. This is to maintain the balance and the various nutrients and micronutrients in the soil. Then there is National Mission on Sustainable Agriculture, like I said. And of course, National Organic Farming Research Institute to cater to all the research and development and all the technical initiatives that could be taken in this field is primarily being dealt by this institute. Then of course, there are states practicing, particularly that you have to remember is the case of Andhra Pradesh. You can see that Andhra Pradesh has implemented this, especially the natural farming in all of its districts, in all 13 districts. Then you can also read about Punjab, which has implemented and ensured natural farming its 1,000 acres of its area. Another states would be Kerala, Karnataka, Haryana in about 80 acres, and of course Himachal Pradesh. So these are some of the states who have implemented this sort of schemes in their own forms or probably by taking from centre's idea. Now the question of the day, what are the present challenges before crop diversification? How do natural farming provide an opportunity for sustainable and climate resilient agriculture? So please do answer this question. This is for today. Now moving on to the next topic of the day, which is about the parliamentary disruptions. The context of this article is that for few days and in fact for last few months, we have been seeing this constant parliamentary disruptions. Why it is important? Because first of all, Parliament has a specific purpose. We send our MPs and MLAs, so to say, in state councils for them to formulate laws and discuss and debate the policies that are in the welfare of public and people. But if we see the constant and crucial time and the important time that the Parliament has getting wasted in these disruptions and these proceedings getting stalled, then there is something we need to discuss. We need to see how can we change it and why it is all the more important to do it now. So first of all, let's discuss the structure of the Parliament. So in a just to tell you some things about it, the Parliament is basically bicameral. It has two houses, Council of State, which is known by the name of Rajya Sabha, and the other house is House of People, Lok Sabha. Rajya Sabha has more than 250 members, while Lok Sabha has more than 545 members. Now again, 12 members are nominated by the President in the case of Rajya Sabha. Earlier, 2 members used to be nominated in Lok Sabha as well, but in 2020, by 104th Constitutional Amendment Act, this provision was abolished. So now that doesn't exist anymore. And it has not more than 530 members elected by people, and now not more than 13 from union territories. In the case of Rajya Sabha, this has not more than 238 representatives of states and union territories. So this is a overall broad structure of the Parliament. Then about the role and significance of the Parliament. So Parliament gives the opportunity to discuss all of these matters, national importance, by various tools. There are articles related to rules and functions and which tells how this proceedings has to be regulated, and there are motions, there are sessions, there are parliamentary proceedings, then there are these houses which we have already discussed, then there are special powers of Rajya Sabha over and above Lok Sabha. There are parliamentary privileges as well. There are bills and law-making procedures, and of course there is a provision to discuss various funds, cuts, budgets, so on and so forth. So first of all, to discuss and describe under the role of Parliament, we have debating functions. Under Article 107, 108, both houses, Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, have a primary duty to discuss any issue of the public welfare or public importance. Then we have legislative functions under Article 245 to 255, where Parliament makes up all of these laws, which are eventually placed into the public arena, and which are probably becomes from the bill, they become law only in Parliament, only with legislative agreement. Then we have enforcing accountability of executive, which is one primary role of the Parliament under Article 75(3). You must have read under Article 75(3), which says that Lok Sabha and the relation between Lok Sabha and the Council of Ministers. So Council of Ministers are responsible to Lok Sabha under Article 75(3) to ensure that executive remains accountable to Parliament. Then it has financial functions also under Article 112, which deals nothing but with the budget and the scrutiny with respect to it, which is ensured by the Parliament and the legislature. Then international standing, all the agreements, conventions, treaties are signed by the union government or the central government, and Article 246 and 253 are specifically kept in the Constitution to deal with all those agreement and conventions. For example, Paris Climate Agreement in 2015 that we saw, Union government signed this agreement by taking to Article 253 and 246. Then, of course, it has representative character as well. It represents different sections, different classes, and different sections of the society. So, Parliament is one association of different people representing the public of India. That being said, there are particular reasons which can be prescribed and enumerated so that we can understand what are the primary causes of disruption. First of all, there is limited efficacy of the rules and disciplinary powers of speakers. This has been constantly debated that there needs to be a change with respect to adjudicatory powers of the speakers. But that being said, you have to understand that there is also the composition have become more heterogeneous over the years. Earlier, the composition of Parliament was not heterogeneous, especially considering the first 3 decades of the Parliament or the polity that we saw post-independence. Then there is a case of coalition government. When there is a coalition government, there are more cases of disruptions because there is no clear-cut majority. There is no one way of dominating or probably one consensual based agreement. So there is more tendency of disruption, disagreements. That being said, the next one would be, recently there has been a tendency and recently been a trend of live parliamentary proceedings. If that been the case, these public authorities or these public officials know that they are in the limelight or probably they are in the eye of the public all the time. So they tend to create ruckus, sometimes irrelevant for out of the cause, which is not really acceptable, should not be acceptable to the chair of the house. Having said that, there is also acceptance that disruptions have already or were part of India's political culture. This is not to say, yes, this is true to an extent, but those disruptions, if lead to something productive, then that could be said as productive or constructive disruptions. But if it is only done just for the sake of disruption, then it leads to waste of public money and their trust also. Now you can see in this imagery that parliamentary interventions filed in the Lok Sabha and Raj Sabha. Here you can see in 15th Lok Sabha and during 16th and 17th, you can see the decreasing trend of short notice questions. This just tells about the involvement of particular MPs and of different MPs in Parliament, because these are some of the tools by which these MPs can ask and raise questions. Half an hour, again you would see that over these years in Raj Sabha, these has further decreased, and same is again the case with calling attentions also. You can also observe in the case of Lok Sabha, except half an hour discussion and short notice questions, again calling attentions have decreased, while this red, which represents short notice questions, this has to an extent increased, but like I said, this still doesn't give us the soundful pictures of the parliamentary productivity. Then what are the issues? How can we name them? First of all, there are frequent adjournment of parliament sessions. To tell you that in the last monsoon session, we could only work for the 21% of the designated schedule. This tells us that this is not even 50%, not even half of the time was constructively used. Then there are lack of parliamentary debate. To give you a statistic, 18 bills were passed without any discussion in 2022 monsoon sessions. Then average time for any bill, or in this particular monsoon session, we saw that average time for any bill discussion was nothing more than 8 minutes. These are some of the data that reflects on the functioning and productivity of the parliament. Then also reduced working hours and days of parliament. Initially, when during 50s and 60s we started working, the working days were around 120 to 140, which has come down to now 60 to 70. almost half of it. Then there are again and again in recurrent use and resort to money bill route, even for the causes which are not related to money bill. For example, to give you one example, there was tribunal reforms bill, which was be taken under the finance bill, under the route of money bill. Then party supporting wrong. There are also instances where we have seen that multiple parties are supporting even the wrongdoings of their members in the name of opposition, in the name of the same party support. So we have to ensure that all of these are tackled. But first of all, we have to understand the diagnosis and the gravity of these issues. To give you more statistics, there are over the years the bills that are being referred to standing committees or the parliamentary committees, which have a role of detailed and in-depth discussion of these bills and their provisions. You can see the percentage of bills have been decreasing, except 15th Lok Sabha. During 14th Lok Sabha, it was around 60%, which went to 70% in 15th Lok Sabha, but again in 16th and 17th, it decreased eventually to 25 to around 10% in 17th Lok Sabha, as you can see, right? Then we have again case, this also represents the same, just to give you in terms of statistics, 10%, and this was 27% in the case of 16th Lok Sabha. Again, low in-house productivity can be seen with this imagery. Productivity of Lok Sabha in particular, if we see, during monsoon session of 2012, it was around 21%, which again went down to next year's winter to 15%. Again in budget 2018 it increased to 21%, but again it is remaining around and floating around 21%, which is again not a very good criteria and parameter of reflecting on parliamentary productivity. Now, what are its consequences? Now that we have seen what are the issues, challenges, causes and reasons why do we suffer from parliamentary productivity, we need to see what could be its consequences if we do not act on time. So, there is financial loss. Per day expenditure to maintain the parliamentary proceedings is about 25 lakhs per hour in the parliament. This is not anybody else's money but the public money. These public representatives have to be cautious when they are taking and wasting public money. In essence, when they are taking to disruptions, when they think they are wasting time, they are actually nothing but wasting public money and eventually public credibility. Then they resort to ordinances. Recently, we saw the recent promulgation of the ordinance in the case of National Capital Territory, where the services powers were given to Lieutenant Governor. But the case is the promulgation and reformulgation and resort to various ordinances when the actual procedure is to go by the parliamentary proceedings. Then there is also the case of erosion of credibility. By doing all of these, by not resorting to and not responding to the genuine public queries and questions, not dealing with the matters of public importance, it leads to erosion of credibility. It also leads to dilution of the authority of the parliament, and sometimes discussions which are very crucial, and if they are not catered timely, they lose their worth. So that is the criteria and the primary reason of parliamentary existence, which should not be diluted. Then there is also question of accountability of government. If these answers are not given, if all of these tools which are there to ensure the accountability and the executive responsibility of the government, if that is not ensured, then I think the whole institution of parliament would remain not of that function for which it was designed for. Then again, how can we improve now that we have discussed that there are challenges, there are issues, what it leads to, what is the need, and then we have to understand how can we improve this parliamentary function, what could be the reforms that could bring a change in the way that parliament functions. We have to ensure that we give more teeth and more ways to all of these MPs so that they can ask questions to the government of the day. But we have to ensure that those questions are in the nature and are meritocratic, not just to disrupt the parliament, not just to waste the time. Then former CGI, especially CGI Chandrachud, said that legal community and lawyers could also be included so as to bring in their dimension, so as to bring in their knowledge and expertise in the social and economic life. Then we have to mandatorily refer a bill to the parliamentary committees. If not all, at least certain crucial bills should be referred to the parliamentary committee, because the reason is these parliamentary committees have experts. They also have more time than usual parliament to discuss all of these and each of the provisions of any bill. So whatever bills we think are of crucial importance and need in-depth scrutiny could be transferred to these committees. And we can also ensure appropriate actions against unruly members. For that, we have to ensure a model code of conduct for MPs in Parliament. And if they do not stick to this behavior, what is becoming of their post, they should be duly charged. Then we have to review anti-defection law, especially its two provisions. We have to see that under the cause of whip, only no confidence motion should be kept. Whip should be restricted to only no confidence motion. And second, the adjudicatory power of speaker. This should be given to Election Commission of India. Alright. Then we have to ensure legislative impact assessment with respect to every law that is being passed by the Parliament. We have to ensure environmental impact, economic impact and political impact, as well as administrative impact. Then there is a provision of shadow cabinet which is presently being followed in the case of UK or Britain, so to say. There is an opposite cabinet that is being prepared, that is always ready in the Parliament, which asks specific questions, which sets the motion, which sets the certain procedure of the day and also the target for the day for few days specifically. To give you in detail about UK model, let me tell you that they specifically 20 days are there in all 100 days where parliamentary proceedings are happening, where 20 days the usual procedure of the day and the task of the days will be decided by the main opposition party. And the remaining 3 days, so the main opposition party would get 17 days, the 3 days will be given to the second largest opposition party. Now, of course, the decisions are not binding on the government, but it tells a lot about the purpose of the shadow cabinet, and the purpose of giving these days is to discuss the relevant matters. And the Prime Minister has a constitutional convention to respond. He cannot choose to either respond or not. He has to respond, and it is the constitutional convention in there. Similarly, example is also available in Canada. So these are two cases which you can learn something from and apply to India's case also. Then the question of the day with respect to this topic: role of Parliament is to deliberate and discuss. But in recent times, increasing disruption has become a roadblock in parliamentary functioning. Comment. Please do answer this question. Now, coming to the simplified sections of the analysis, we have very first article which deals with the Wikipedia and the ANI's defamation suit. So the context and the background is that the ANI, which is a news agency, has filed a defamation suit against Wikimedia Foundation, which is a not-for-profit foundation from US. Now, ANI says that the Wikipedia page has defamed it, and even after its multiple trial has not edited the pages. So let's see what is the in-depth, the suit, and what are the problems here. So first of all, in around August 20, the single judge bench subsequently directed Wikimedia to disclose administrators' detail. What are administrators, what are editors, and what are the pages, who write these pages in Wikimedia? Let's just discuss all of this once we move on. So first of all, Wikipedia is a community-driven encyclopedia freely available on the internet. So volunteers from around the world have this ability and the capability that they can populate and maintain it, and they can edit it also. Now, all pages on Wikipedia are not of equal quality. Some could be of upper quality, some could be constantly being edited. So that refrains and poses a question on its quality. Now again, the people who are editing these are they claim to be field experts and in-depth scrutinizes all of these provisions, and the platform allows anyone to communicate their knowledge freely as long as they abide by certain rules and procedures and the guidelines. Now, what are these guidelines? Let's see more. First of all, how is Wikipedia populated? So first of all, there are identities of 3 administrators. This single judge bench direction to reveal the identity, which was pointed out in the court, that you have to, this was asked from Wikimedia to identify and reveal their 3 administrators. As a result of this, or as a response to this, Wikimedia again filed an appeal before the division bench. Now this court said that it directed this Wikimedia to submit in a sealed covers the information of these individuals. So now it didn't ask to reveal them publicly, but again it asked Wikimedia to reveal all of this information in a sealed cover. Now something about and the details about the suit filed by the ANI. Some of the statements on its Wikipedia page are defamatory, which are not really as per the information that ANI gives. So what has happened is that ANI says that it has tarnished the reputation of the plaintiff, which in this case is ANI, by publishing false, misleading and defamatory content, and discredit the plaintiff's impeccable professional standing. So this news agency has been in news for quite few time, and by publishing fake content about it, that is the claim of the agency, that it has misleaded the public and it has also defamed it, in a sense. Now, when editors associated with ANI attempted, now in a response to this, ANI editors themselves tried and to edit and modify this defamatory statements. However, they were further, in a response to that, they were reversed and they were eventually not allowed to modify them. How was that happen? Because Wikipedia later changed the page status to extended confirmed protection. Now, this is a certain provision which you have to understand to get the gauge of this case, what has actually happened. So, when Wikipedia gives some person or some pages a status of extended confirmed protection, this prevents anybody related to that page or ANI associated editors from further changing it. So, that becomes a limited capacity, and in a limited capacity, it becomes, it is not allowed to be edited by public anymore. ANI has alleged that this implies Wikimedia violated the obligations of indemnity. Now comes the bigger question. When in the first case, or when in the first hand, Wikipedia or Wikimedia Foundation claims itself to be an intermediary, then under IT Rules 2000 and what we call as the safe harbor provision under IT Rules 2000, any intermediary is not allowed to change or modify any sort of content on any of the platforms. And Wikimedia is one of the intermediary. Now, going against this provision, ANI has alleged that Wikimedia has violated this same obligation. Hence, the case against it. Now, will Wikimedia lose safe harbor protection? But if the the charges of the ANI stands right, will the Wikimedia lose its safe harbor protection? First of all, this foundation, like I said, is a not-for-profit US-based organization, and from its side, in its response, it says that it does not play a role in determining the contents on Wikipedia. Its role is limited to provide the technical infrastructure to the platform, which is Wikipedia and 3 different pages. All statements on any page need to be backed by reliable, verifiable sources. Mostly of these allegedly defamatory statements on ANI's Wikipedia's page also have references to reliable sources. Original research is not allowed. Then second, pages on controversial topics are often extensively edited for propriety. Any member of the Wikipedia page can ask for a page's status to be protected. Now, this is a controversial provision. If any member of the community can ask for a page status to be protected, then what is the actual procedure? How does it become protected? Because if any member could ask, then it is a questionable thing. And editors may subsequently place the page in a state of extended confirmed protection and full protection. So then this Wikimedia takes to 2 routes. Either it gives extended confirmed protection or full protection. Now, if it in case of full protection is given, then only administrator can make changes. So now there comes the role of and the differentiation of editors and administration. In case of full protection, only administrators will be able to make and modify any changes. However, if the protection given is only under extended confirmed use protection, then editors whose accounts have the extended confirmed users tag or the badge can edit it. So any editor who has a sufficiently, and what is the criteria to call or to badge anyone as the editor? It is who has a sufficiently long standing account and a minimum number of edits to their name can apply to become an administrator, and community members elect them. But the question is, who are those community members? It is not revealed every time any new administrator gets in. Second thing, if the editor is credited and the criteria to qualify any editor is the minimum number of edits, then how the person is to be called an editor itself? That is again a question. Finally, Wikimedia is not involved in these elections, but again it is taking place on its platform. And again, it is not revealed how these elections are taking place, who are the people who are electing it, or the process taking place, who are responsible for them. Then another question, what effect will loss of safe harbor status have? Let's say if in the eventual court or the eventual judgment, the court or this Wikimedia loses the safe harbor status, then what happens? Then this is bound to hamper the platform's reputation. First of all, it has been regulated the world over, and it will lose its platform's reputation. Future editors may not be able to operate in probably confidence, or in a way you can say, if proper regulations, rules, guidelines are given, some transparent guidelines are given, how editors are changed, how editors are chosen, how these administrators are kept, what is the process of election, who decides it, then probably more faith could be affirmed to this sort of platform. So on both sides, first of all, we have to see where the judgment goes, and then we'll have more further elaborated discussion on this topic. So for this now on this topic, let's move on the additional part and prelim booster to this article. Now to give you and again discuss section 79 of the Information Technology Act 2000, which I called IT Act 2000. There is a safe harbor provisions, which is a provision under this act itself. This provision protects intermediaries. What are intermediaries? These are social media intermediaries like platforms, search engines, or online marketplaces, which they are protected from being held liable for third party consent. Now, conditions for protection, they are given protection, but there are certain conditions for it. If they do not fulfill any of that, if they violate any of this, then they are not given this provision. So, intermediaries must not initiate or modify content. They must act to remove unlawful content when asked to do so, and compliance with IT rules. These are three mandatory conditions. And what is the significance? Of course, due to ensure the freedom of internet, to ensure free operation of internet services, this clause is necessary. The protection of intermediaries is necessary, but they also have to comply with the rules and regulations of the land where they are operating. Then they have to balance innovation with accountability. There could be innovation, there could be 1,000 chances of innovation, but there could not be, there has to be a maintenance of accountability as well. Then what are the challenges? First of all, these intermediary responsibilities are somewhat vague. There is a lot of subjectivity in them. If they are defined and represented clearly, it becomes easier for both parties to follow them. Then there is a conflict of freedom expression and regulatory compliance. Of course, these are probably contrasting provisions and contrasting norms. But like I said, we have to maintain a balance between two for a fruitful operations of these internet freedom and freedom of expression also. So this was regarding this article. Moving to the second article of the day, Collegium recommends Justice Manmohan for Supreme Court. So the news is the Delhi High Court Chief Justice Manmohan as a judge of the Apex Court. This has been Supreme Court Collegium has appointed and elevated him as judge of the Supreme Court. He was earlier a Delhi High Court Chief Justice. Supreme Court has sanctioned strength of 34. So the strength which is sanctioned for Supreme Court is 34. Now it is currently working with 32. So there could be a question in prelims where they could ask and say, given they could give one option that the present sanction strength of the Supreme Court or the present strength of the Supreme Court is 32 or 34. If you are aware that it is actually at 32, then you may be able to eliminate that option. So some additional points for your prelims. There are constitutional provisions for judicial appointments and transfer. This is covered under Article 124 for the President, for the Supreme Court judges, and for High Court judges, this is under Article 217. So these two articles are related to appointment and transfer of judges. So though under both of these articles, this relates to the formation of collegium system and concurrence by the President when he or she is appointing the judges. Let's read more on this. What is a collegium system in the Indian judiciary, how it has evolved, and what are its specific features, and do we need to change it? So first of all, it is regarding the appointment and transfer of judges in the Supreme Court and High Court, like I have already said, and it is not rooted in the Constitution. What do you mean by that? Because this collegium system is not a constitutional provision. It has been evolved over the years, starting from the first judge case where Supreme Court held that concurrence and the consultation are not the same. And in fact, there was first judge case, and then there was second judge case, and there was then third judge case. The first of these cases came in 1980s when judge said, and it upheld the idea and the provision from the union governments and the parliament side that yes, it has to be the superiority and probably concurrence of the president. He could take the decision. While the second judge's case, it said it has to be the consultation, the necessary and mandatory consultation and concurrence of the Supreme Court judges. And third, it increases the strength, the number of judges under the collegium system, and from then on, it has been carried on the same. In 2014, there was an attempt to form NJAC, National Judicial Appointment Commission, where an executive and some people from executive side and some people from the judiciary side were appointed to make a team or this commission who would undertake and take care of appointments in a more transparent way. However, in later years, this was held unconstitutional by the Supreme Court, and Supreme Court said that it may hamper the independence of the judiciary. So this collegium system is again back and dealing with the appointments and transfer of judges. In the case of CJI, like I said, collegium means 4 senior most judges apart from the Chief Justice of India, and in High Court this means 3 more senior judges apart from the 2 more senior judges apart from the Chief Justice of that High Court. Government still has the right to raise objections. However, if the collegium reiterates the same names after, of course, consulting to the government, then government is bound by the decision. So this is an overall picture of the collegium system's functioning. But there has been criticism over the years. Why? Because this has led to the charges of favoritism, sometimes nepotism. Also, this works a bit in a non-transparent manner. This is opaque system. Also, there is administrative burden of checking professional background data. This is a closed door affair. Like I said, it has opaque functioning, and exclusivity sidelines talented junior judges and advocates. It somehow doesn't remain on par for the election or for the appointment of other judges. That's why some of the criticism has been raised from different corners from time and again. Tell you more, there are 2 systems at loggerheads. One, like I said, there was NJC system. Came in 2014, where both the element from judiciary and executive, CJI, 2 senior most SC judges, then union law minister and 2 eminent persons were kept in that committee. But however, this was eventually turned off and was said to be unconstitutional by the judiciary. So this was the NJAC Act, and as against to it, we have presently working is the collegium system. You can see that this was an original provision, and Article 124, 1217 of the Constitution have to be appointed by the precedent after consultation with the CGI. In later judgments, they have interpreted consultation with the concurrence. Then again, CGI's primacy is there. Composition wise, it has only judicial members, a panel of top 5 SC judges appointed judges in secrecy. This is the case of Supreme Court. Veto power, government could return Collegium's recommendation, but like I said, in the second reiteration, they are bounded by the decision. While in the case of NJC, this was not so. And if any two members did not agree, those names had to be dropped. So these two systems were more or less at this discussion for the appointment and transfer of judges. Now the third article under the simplified section is about Trump's tariffs, its impact on global growth, and what could it mean for India. So first of all, trade experts have highlighted Trump's disregard for multilateral institutions like WTO, also not to forget about the UNESCO, pointing to deeper confrontation ahead. So Trump has made it quite obvious that he's going to take trade impositions or trade prohibitions on countries like China, on Mexico. But there remains to be seen how it's going to affect the relations and how it's going to affect the trade wars in the global arena, and how it could modify the relations between, especially trade relations between India and US. So WTO was originally formed to foster cooperation among nations, World Trade Organizations, with economic theories suggesting that countries integrated through trade are less likely to engage in military conflict. So there is one theory that if nations are trading and it is working in both of their favor, then there are less chances of them engaging in military conflicts. Now, as the case of Trump's, he has threatened a steep tariff hike of around up to 25% on United States' top 3 trade partners, who are Mexico, Canada, and China. Now, Canada on its stance has started negotiating, while Mexico and China have warned of retaliatory actions. So Canada has again, like I said, has begun negotiations. Fears of trade conflict are mounting, particularly the WTO, World Trade Organization, remains paralyzed due to the breakdown of its dispute resolution mechanism. So when such mechanism is not present, and if there are disputes on trade fronts, what is the mechanism that we could take to solve these kind of disputes? So it is important that the sanctity of this organization remains. Then what is the situation of India? How India is in a relatively better position. As Trump's primary target is China, which has much higher trade surplus than US, India is relatively and less export oriented than many other Asian economies. Also, as per report by Standard & Poor's Global released on Tuesday, which indicated that China's growth could slow 4% by 2025 due to US tariffs weakening exports and investment. Conversely, it said that India is expected to maintain a robust expansion rate of nearly 7%, taking the global growth baton. Next thing, the policies aimed at further stimulating an already robust economy could result in higher inflation, elevated interest, and stronger dollar. This is in the case of US economies. So if that happens, that it could lead to inflation, of course, higher interest rate and a stronger dollar. These effects may tighten financial conditions in the US and impact emerging markets, which is also the case of India. Now, US remains India's, what is favoring India is that US remains India's largest trade partner, with bilateral trade surpassing $120 billion in financial year 2024. Slightly outpacing India's trade with China. Unlike China, India's trade balance with US is favorable. So India's case is a bit on the positive side. Then US now accounts for 18% of India's exports also, up from 10% in 2010 and 11. So yes, trade relations have improved, and India's export portfolio is also diverse, ranging from textiles, electronics, and engineering goods. To its response, Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum has also noted that the move could result in the loss of 400,000 US jobs or 4 lakh US jobs and increased cost for American consumers, particularly in sectors like automotive manufacturing, which is central to Mexico's economy and heavily reliant on exports to the US. So this is overall what the article deals with. Let us know more something on India-US trade relationship. So you can see in the case of exports from India to US, we have diverse portfolio. It ranges from pearls, semi-precious stones, then electrical machinery, equipments to the range of 9.9 in terms of $1 billion. Then we have pharmaceutical products also. We have mineral fuels, oils, waxes. And when it comes to exports from US to India, then again, our almost 11 billion US dollars goes to import mineral fuels, oils, waxes, bituminous substances. And of course, second category is pearls, semi-precious stones, precious stones, and nuclear reactors, bioreactors, machinery, mechanical appliances occupy around $2.9 billion, and air, spacecraft, the defense equipment to the tune of 2.7 billion US dollars. Now, in overall, if you have to see, from India to US, the exports of 75.5 billion US dollars, while from US to India, it is around 40.1 US billion dollars. This is to give you an idea how this exports and imports take place when it comes to India and US. Then to see and how Trump's may or going to take actions when it comes to India and US trade. So first of all, trade-wise, if Trump decides to act and import from India, it will hurt exports. During campaign, he referred India as a very big abuser of trade ties, but going by his recent win, it doesn't look like that this is going to be the immediate aspect. In his earlier terms, although we saw that Washington took certain measures negatively impacting India's exports, and more protection could be negative for India. So India as a whole do not support protectionism. It favors the free trade, but there has to be concerns of both developing and developed countries. They have to be catered to. Then in case of oil, you can see that US is India's 5th largest oil supplier. Lower prices will be good for India. It being the world's 3rd largest consumer of crude, heavy reliance on oil imports make the Indian economy vulnerable to price volatility. In the case of IT, US will toughen its stance on H-1B visas like it did in its when Trump first became the president. This was the stance of US. Indian IT sector is the biggest beneficiary of H-1B visa. However, if Trump and his administration decides to act against this or probably contrary to this, it will be good for IT services and employment or the employees who are involved in this sector. Then 23, if you see, accounted for 72.3 of the total H-1B approvals. So let's wait and see how Trump policies go ahead and act in favor of India. Then in order to bolster ties, we have to ensure 4 aspects. First of all, market access. We have to enhance it. Easier market access for its especially wheat products, mangoes, grapes, pomegranates. US seeks quid pro quo for cherries, pork products, and alfalfa hay. This needs discussion, of course. Then action plan wise, we have to ensure working groups on agriculture to discuss and debate on important issues. Non-agriculture goods and services, they'll have to meet frequently also. Then, like I said, IT workers, what's one important sector for India. And this is a post-COVID, we need to ensure that trade remains holistic. There is no place for protectionism. Free trade principles have to be observed, all the countries, but yes, specific issues have to be dealt with, taking in concerns of individual countries. Now, the 4th article under the simplified section is about India test fires ballistic missile launched from submarine. So this is the K4 missile. India has tested nuclear capable ballistic missile by the name of K4. It has a range of around 3,500 kilometers and it is a nuclear powered submarine in the Bay of Bengal. It will give a boost to its nuclear deterrence and strategic capabilities. India, by this test and trial, India has become part of the small group of nations having the capability to fire a nuclear capable missile from land, sea and air. the K4 missile that we are discussing was tested from submarine INS Arighat off the coast of Visakhapatnam, and the first test of the submarine was launched from the submarine launched ballistic missile. So this missile was launched from the submarine, and it has the distinction of having the indigenous systems. All the systems designs that has been used in the systems are all entirely indigenous. That is one of the features of this K4 ballistic missile. Then to give you certain pointers on this, K4 is a nuclear capable intermediate range ballistic missile developed by India. It is a K-series submarine launched ballistic missile designed to provide second strike capability as part of India's nuclear terms. So remember these terms, we'll take in detail later on. Some of the key details about is that it has a range of 3,500 kilometers. It is capable of carrying a nuclear warhead up to 2,000 kgs. And it has an advanced inertial navigation system for accurate targeting that increases its accuracy and precision. Then it is designed to be launched from India's indigenous Arihant class nuclear powered submarine, and of course if we talk about the fuel type, it is a solid fuel type rocket motor, enhancing its reliability and reducing the preparation time. This is an overall design of this ballistic missile. Then what is its strategic importance? So K4 as such enhances India's strategic deterrence by ensuring a secure and credible second strike capability. What is the second strike capability? So let's just go ahead and see. Second strike capability, as India depends and India believes in no first use of nuclear weapons. So India takes to second strike capability and keeps its right to itself if it is offended and if it is attacked with nuclear weapons. So in that case, by keeping in mind India's second strike capability, India is trying to ensure this nuclear triad, which is nothing but a capability to fire weapons, nuclear weapons from land-based systems, air-based system as well as sea-based system. So this K4 missile that we are reading comes under this category. Another one already is in place, which is K-15 Sagarika. Air-based systems you can understand by Sukhoi. We also have one of all is Sukhoi. And land-based system we have Agni 4 and Agni 5. So we have both of these under these. So now we have become capable to ensure that we have India's nuclear triad. So here we have, now that we have understood what do you mean or what we mean by second strike capability, we can read more. It complements short range SLBM. These are again ballistic missiles, short range, like the K-15 Sagarika, and represents a significant step towards what? The deployment of longer range systems. So like I said, we already have K-15, but it is a short range. And this is now we are targeting it it comes under the long range system. Such as the upcoming K-5 and K-6 missile. They are also in the long range missions. So this was about this. Last article of the day. Deep depression likely to make Tamil Nadu landfall tomorrow. This goes back to geophysical phenomena and the topic of cyclones that we read in GS1 geography. So the weather system that had moved slowly since Wednesday will cross the coast between Karaikal and Malappuram in Tamil Nadu as a depression. So we'll understand what a depression means. It is likely to cross the coast with a wind speed of, what is the speed of this? Is around 45 to 55 kilometers per hour, gusting to around 65 kilometers per hour. The system, now this was just the news in the paper, but apart from it, you need to know from prelims perspective or from the mains perspective, there are a few pointers in this. First, you have to know what is the tropical cyclone distribution. You also have to know what is the differentiation between tropical cyclone and a temperate cyclone. What are the specific conditions of any origin or what leads to the generation of tropical cyclone. So starting with the distribution, you will see that these red marked areas are particularly tropical cyclones areas. They are known by different names. These are known by hurricanes in this area, and they are known as cyclone in nearby areas of Indian Ocean. And then they are known by the in the South China Sea, they are known by the names of typhoons. You have to tell me in the Australia, in the neighborhood of Australia, what is the name for tropical cyclones? You can mention it in the comment section. Tell you more how tropical storms are formed. First of all, the precondition is that if there has to be formation of clouds, there is the formation and generation of energy in the form of condensation. There has to be presence of Coriolis force as well. First of all, in temperature, if we have temperature more than 26-27 degrees, then water evaporates from the ocean surface and comes into contact of mass of cold air. This leads to formation of clouds. So first of all, cloud has formed. Now what will happen is a column of low pressure develops because the temperature is high. This column will develop, and a wind starts to form around this column. So if we have this sort of column, this column is forming, and again winds form around that column. This low pressure is inside it. As the pressure in the central column decreases further, the low pressure becomes further lower, then the speed of the wind proportionately increases and the formation of tropical cyclone. Now this rotates anti-clockwise in the northern hemisphere and clockwise in the southern hemisphere. To tell you how can we define cyclones, they are wind systems that rotate inward toward an area of low atmospheric pressure. Like I said, cyclones in general are divided into two categories, tropical and temperate. What we are discussing is largely tropical cyclones, but to give you differentiation with respect to temperate cyclones, they are formed due to interaction of warm and cold air masses. On the contrast, tropical cyclones are related with the thermal acting and the agencies of temperatures that are acting on the sea surface. While they are interactions of warm and cold air masses, and they generally take place on the mainland or over the lands. They are confined to 35 to 65 degrees north-south of the equator, while in the case of tropical cyclones, they are between 10 to 30 degrees of north-south of the equator. They are more pronounced in the northern hemisphere due to greater temperature contrast owing to large expanse of landmass. Now the third point about the temperate cyclone is they are formed by the frontogenesis on both land and sea, while tropical cyclones are limited to the sea and the area nearby coast and not related, and they get exhausted when they come in touch or they come in contact with land masses. Then there is also velocity typical range, which is higher in case of tropical cyclones, and of course it is high in temperate cyclones also, but not to the extent that it is in the case of tropical ones. Then of course, then we have to understand that cyclones form over warm water bodies. As I have said, they are only formed over the seas and water bodies due to the energy derived from the condensation and evaporation of warm water in cumulonimbus clouds. So there has to be formation of these clouds, there has to be presence of water, evaporation of it because the condensation is needed. Then wind rotation, and there is also a role of Coriolis force. If this force is not present, again there is no presence of tropical cyclone. This is why these tropical cyclones are not present in the or nearby regions of equator, especially from 0 to 10 degrees north-south, because there is no Coriolis force, there is no wind rotation. Even if there is some energy, there would be no rotation itself. So there is no formation of a cyclone. Then specific conditions, just to enumerate them. First of all, you have to have warm sea surface temperature, which has to be around 26 or at least greater than 27 degrees Celsius. Presence of Coriolis force, like I said, for this reason, there is no tropical cyclones or no nearby equator regions, especially 0 to 10 degrees north and south, because there is no Coriolis force there. Then you have to have pre-existing low pressure systems. If these systems are there, these could get enhanced with all of these other conditions and could become a tropical cyclone. But first of all, we need low pressure systems. And depression, what we read in the headline, was nothing, a low pressure system. And we need small vertical speed differences. If vertical wind speed is not small and if it is large, then this tropical cyclone will not be able to develop. If it develops, then it will not be able to survive for longer. Then there is also upper air divergence. As you can see, as the cyclone moves this way, there is a tendency of to move outwards. Okay, so these are particular 5 conditions that are necessary for a formation of a tropical cyclone. So this was all for the day. I hope this was fruitful for you. All the best. Thank you so much.